We're at a stage now where a child has demonstrated their ability to match and a range of other receptive and expressive skills that are starting to lead them towards us being able to do something like category sorting. Now, categories can seem like a bit of an odd thing to teach in an early learning situation because category concepts like transport and animals and food, clothing, whatever categories you want to use, and stationery, furniture, whatever is going to work for your child, they can seem a little bit abstract, and it might be hard to understand how they're going to be functional in sort of day-to-day language. But what is important about teaching a child categories is that it encourages a child to really notice the relationship in between different objects. And categories are a really straightforward relationship, like the concept that a fish is an animal and a dog is an animal. That's a relational concept that a child is going to be able to pick up quite quickly. But there's all different complex relations in our day-to-day life that we take for granted and we can see, but a lot of our little ones really struggle with. So relational concepts can include size, speed, weight, even wet versus dry is a relational concept, and there's tasty versus yuck is a relational concept. And just the more a child understands that things can be related to each other to varying degrees and in different ways, that's going to really help with their receptive understanding of the world, and it's going to really lead to a point where their expressive language around these concepts is going to be a lot fuller and a lot more information carrying.
It's also going to help with the organisation in their brain. Often children will have problems retrieving things and whatever, whereas if it's sort of compartmentalised, they get the relationship, they can go into that place to get out the information that they want. It's great.
Yeah, so in this situation with shoulder, I'm going to be starting category sorting with two different categories. We're going to have transport and animals. Now, whatever categories you choose to start with, it's totally up to you. I like transport and animals because generally a lot of my little kids think that animals are really cool, and a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine or those sorts of kids think transport is really interesting. So you may as well start with materials that your kid's likely to enjoy. So I first start this by placing one transport card in front of shoulder, and in this case it's going to be a tractor. And I'm going to place one animal card in front of shoulder, and in this case it's going to be a duck. And I'm going to label the two categories first, so I'm not going to say tractor and duck because that's not how we want her thinking in this drill. We want her thinking in category terms. So she may never have heard these words before as well. Particularly, a child's likely heard animal, but there's a chance that they haven't heard of tractor or stationary or whatever category term you decide to use. So I'm going to label this transport, animals. And when I first present this drill to shoulder, I'm going to say put with transport or put with animals. So shoulder, put with animals. Good work. Shoulder, put with animals. Oh, let's try again. That's transport. Let's put with animals. Really good work. Okay, let's put with transport. Now, essentially that's what the drill looks like. It's category sorting. We're doing it with two different categories at the moment. And you can expand this to three different categories. You can make the categories as abstract or as interesting as you want. Because remember, this isn't necessarily about making sure that they're going to use those category terms in language on a day-to-day basis. It's about just forming as many of these connections in your child's head as possible so they continue to improve their relational skills. You can also do this expressively. So you would want your child to have mastered the category sorting receptively first, and then we're going to use an even, a more ridiculous word with our child at this point. We're going to say, what category? Which Once again, you're going to have to explicitly teach because they probably haven't heard or wanted to use that word at all in general language. But if you can have a child expressively labeling these categories, it's going to lead to really good things in their communication. So I have an elephant here. I'm just going to say, Shelda, what category?
Animal.
Easy as that. Now, you can push that as far as you want. You can use whatever categories you want. All that's important is that you're really teaching your child to see these relationships in between different objects.